eventually. I think our government's moving in that direction.
Can everybody hear me? Great. Welcome to the Chicago Botanic Garden. My name is Erwin. I'll be your tour guide. Please remain seated at all times during the tour. Be sure to keep your arms and legs inside the tram.
Yay!
For your information, the temperature is now 94 degrees, and there's no chance of rain today.
Okay. So here's where we're starting this way.
We're starting our tour near the Visitor Center, which is the entry point to all of our display gardens. As we pass along beside the Visitor Center, notice that diamond-shaped pattern of plants growing along the wall on trellis that look very much like vines, perhaps ivy. Would you believe those are not vines at all, but actually trees, red jewel crabapple trees that bloom and bear fruit just like freestanding fruit trees. And you could prove it after the tour by walking up to that wall, and at the bottom of every diamond are 2 tree trunks.
Oh my goodness.
And you'll also see the crabapples growing there.
That's great. I love it.
If you decide you'd like to try espalier at the home, you don't have to have this particular pattern. You could have any design that your artistic ability will bring you to. But count on doing a lot of work, a lot of pruning and shaping. The Chicago Botanic Garden is managed by the Chicago Horticultural Society, which was founded way back in the year 1890. Over the next years, this organization was always looking around for a great site to have a botanic garden of their own. They weren't successful until the early 1960s when they formed an agreement with a public agency that owned this land, the Cook County Forest Preserve District. The agreement called for the Forest Preserve District to own the Chicago Botanic Garden. We began construction in 1965. When we opened in 1972, we only had 1 display garden. And over the next 40 years, we've been adding more and more display gardens. Now have a total of 25 of them, and have become one of the leading botanic gardens in the world. Last year, we were visited by over 950,000 people. This year, we hope to have an attendance exceeding 1 million.
That's impressive.
The Chicago Botanic Garden is open every day of the year. Our summer hours are 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. Labor Day will be the last day of our summer hours. The garden covers an area of 385 acres. We have 9 islands here, 81 acres of water. In addition to our many cultivated gardens, we also have several areas where native plants grow. And we're about to enter the first of these native plant areas, the 100-acre McDonald Woods. Now, most of this garden, before we began construction, was a marshland, a floodplain with a river running right through the center of it, except for this area we're driving through right now. This area has always been woodland. An ancient forest that is an example of the kind of oak hickory woodlands that once dotted many areas of northeastern Illinois up to about 100 years ago. The largest trees here are the oaks, the most common oak being the white oak, which is also the state tree of Illinois. There are many woodchip-covered pathways through McDonald Woods, and you can learn more about the woodlands by reading the interpretive signs along the way.
That's the Japanese garden, I'm sure it is. That's really nice. Oh, that's so nice.
We're now viewing the Balant Japanese Gardens, Sancho, and the Garden of 3 Islands. The first island, Harajima, is the island of everlasting happiness, modeled after a mythical island in the South China Sea where immortals were said to dwell. In keeping with that concept, that our island is also reserved for those spirits. We have no bridge to this island, no footpaths, and no man-made objects, designed to be appreciated from a distance. That white bird you see on that island is one of our trumpeter swans. You can tell they're trumpeter swans by their black bills and black legs. Trumpeter swans are the largest native North American waterfowl, and they live out in our lakes all year round, even in the coldest days of winter. Notice the pine trees have an unusual shape because we've pruned away many branches. The remaining branches we've trained to extend out horizontally to make those trees look very old, as old age is much respected in the Japanese culture. We have such a light wind, there's many reflections off the water, increasing the drama of the Japanese garden. Our Japanese gardens were designed by the late Dr. Koichi Kawana as strolling gardens. As visitors walk along the pathways, the garden secrets are not revealed all at once, but only gradually, a technique the Japanese call hide and reveal. As we can look through the gap between the first and second Japanese island, off in the distance, right is our waterfall garden, where water is cascading down from the highest point here at the Botanic Garden, from an elevation 45 feet above the lake, recirculating at a rate of 1,000 gallons per minute. The middle Japanese island, Safuto, the island of clear, cool breezes, features the Arbor House, a little structure where visitors can sit inside, relax, meditate, look out over a dry garden made of coarse sand. There, the sand has been raked to give it the appearance of waves in the sea. Such dry gardens were often found in the courtyards of Zen Buddhist temples.
Of course.
By the way, all the trees along the road here are native to the state of Illinois, trees of Illinois. The last Japanese island, Kyoto, the island of the auspicious cloud, features another building, a beige-colored building called the Showan House, which is a replica of the summer retreat of a member of the warrior class, a samurai background.
This is all very bearable now. Even though it's in the 90s, I can stand this. This is very nice.
On the left is our golf ball garden. Very often we find golf balls growing on this side of the fence of the Klein Cove public golf course.
Well, there we go. We're on the tree locust again. We're going to town.
One of the missions of the Chicago Botanic Garden is to increase the understanding of plants. This is one of our research gardens on the right, the lab and sun evaluation garden, where plants are exposed to full sun and wind from all directions. One of the goals of this garden is to identify those plants that grow best in the kind of climate and soil we have in this area. We are in climate zone 5 here. The bridge up ahead is our newest bridge, connecting our second largest island on the other side with our science campus. This bridge is the Trellis Bridge. Opened just last June. In bloom Toward the back of the evaluation garden are white flowering plants of panicled hydrangea, Hydrangea paniculata.
White hydrangeas. Okay.
This building on the left is the Conservation Science Building. Our newest building. Here, scientists study how to keep plants from becoming extinct. We want to save the plants to save the planet.
Ooh, the red flowers are nice.
The building is open to the public. If you desire, you can get off the tram and spend an hour here. Then there's one more tram coming by in about an hour that will pick you up and finish the tour.
I like the sculpture too. It's actually very nice.
On the right side of the middle of the evaluation garden is a metal sculpture that's also a working sundial.
Looks great in profile.
Notice that the Conservation Science Building stands up on stilts. Before the building was constructed, this area was a floodplain, and we wanted to keep the same amount of water soaking into the ground as before the building was constructed.
Yep, and it's from fertilizer. Nice and strong.
This year we began testing some roses that came from England called David Austin roses. These beds on the right are growing 33 different types of David Austin roses. The test period will be 3 years. And behind the wooden fence is our plant nursery where we adapt plants to live outdoors after being started in greenhouses.
This is awesome that you're asking me to do this. This is just wonderful. I love it. This collection. Isn't that gorgeous?
And behind the All-America winning flowers on the left, behind that fence is our outdoor classroom where we have many activities for young people, including our day campers. Our summer day camp program just ended last week. When Chicago Botanic Garden first opened in 1972, we had one garden. It was located here at the left. This is now the Pullman Shade Evaluation Garden, where we test shade-tolerant plants. Now we're passing alongside our production greenhouses that are not open to the public. We can create a lot of different climate zones in these computer-controlled greenhouses. These greenhouses have given us great service for many years. They're getting a bit old, a little bit out of date, and we're in a fundraising campaign to see if we can replace them in the near future. We're crossing a short, narrow bridge. Beneath this bridge is a dam that keeps our lakes on the right from mixing with the waters of the Skokie River on the left. The Skokie River is the east fork of the north branch of the Chicago River. The Chicago River once flowed into Lake Michigan. As the city grew, pollution from the river was polluting the lake, which was drawing its drinking water, where the city was drawing its drinking water. So to solve the problem, the river was reversed, and since about 1900, the Congo River has not been flowing into Lake Michigan, but rather it has been flowing toward the Mississippi River. Okay, what kind of a bird do we have here? It's a red-winged blackbird. Find many different kinds of birds in the prairie. We're driving through the 15-acre Dixon Prairie, where we are demonstrating 6 different kinds of prairies. On the right, across the water, is an example of a wet prairie, Marsh Island. Along the road, we call this a tall grass prairie. Scientists call it a mesic prairie, or a prairie that gets a medium amount of moisture. Prairie plants, especially the grasses, have very deep roots, usually going down deeper than the plants are tall above ground. We don't see too many trees or shrubs in the prairie because of prairie fires. They occurred naturally before this land was settled by people of European origin. And we keep our prairie healthy by having a deliberately set fire called controlled burns. These prairie plants, because of their very deep roots, are able to survive those prairie fires. And not long after the ground cools, these prairie plants can begin resprouting. The beautiful white flowers on the gravel hill prairie are flowering spurge, Euphorbia cordata, corolata.
There's the occasional colorful flower stuck in there. You see the lavender ones?
I think the temperature has dropped a few degrees since we started.
I know you can hear the frogs as well. Frogs and crickets.
Those dark clouds are supposed to not be rain clouds. One of the trees that could survive those prairie fires on the borders of prairies was the bur oak. We're entering a bur oak savanna. Bur oaks never have any money because they're always bur oak.
Well, that explains why there's a street called Bur Oak. And a neighborhood called
These
Bur Oak.
birdhouses on the left, we provide housing for purple martins. They fly all the way from Brazil, from South America, spend a few months here, and now they're on their way back to South America.
They're mean birds.
Bird Congo.
They're mean birds.
Rising
I
above
ride
me
bird
now
Congo.
is our carillon, a bell tower 60 feet tall, 48 bells, with a musical range of 4 octaves. And during the summertime, we invite musicians called carillonneurs from all around the world to play concerts on our carillon. You're invited to attend. There's no extra charge.
Yeah, they used to concerts and visitors center. They have something just about every day. Not Fridays, but they have Monday and Thursday. Different types of concert. Oh, there you go. Decorative grass.
Between this nearby bridge, the Serpentine Bridge, and that arch bridge we saw previously, that water is called the Great Basin. The gardens of the Great Basin have over 300 crabapples in them. Crabapple trees.
It's like a heron. Or a snowy egret. I don't know if we can get snowy egrets here. I don't know where they're from.
A long rustic bridge leads to the smallest of our 9 islands, Spider Island. No more spiders there than anywhere else in the garden. Spider happened to be the nickname of a member of the family that helped pay for its construction. And on the left is the Skokie River wetland, one of our native plant areas. The Skokie River once flowed through what is now the center of the garden, but we didn't want the river waters to pollute our lakes, so we rechanneled the river to flow along our western boundary so it would bypass our lakes. Coming into view behind Spider Island is the Regenstein Center. This building houses the offices of our adult education program. We have courses for every interest, for every level. A simple gardening courses, courses in the arts, fitness courses, courses leading to certification in many skills, also college level courses with credits and degrees from local universities. In cooperation with Northwestern University, we offer degrees, master's and doctorate degrees in plant biology and conservation. On the right side of the building, you may be able to make out the white roofs of the 3 greenhouses that are open to the public. On this side of the building is a circular brick wall surrounding Circle Garden, specializing in displaying annuals, a very formal garden. On the left side of the building, hidden behind the trees, is Model Railroad Garden, where 18 garden gauge model train sets run through miniature American landmarks, like taking a tour of America without leaving the Botanic Garden. Within the building is the Lenhart Library with a great collection of both contemporary and ancient books, and there's also a display of the great gardens of the world called In Search of Paradise. Almost every weekend throughout the summer, local garden societies have their shows and sales in the Regenstein Center. The trees on the right are the state tree of Ohio, the Ohio Buckeye. Within those beige pods are dark brown nuts that have on it a design looking like the eye of a male deer, the buck. Now coming into view on your right is a wood platform extending out over the water, which is the location of our aquatic garden. Behind the aquatic garden is bulb garden, 75,000 bulbs planted there. Across a bridge from bulb garden, enter fruit and vegetable garden, where we are displaying about 500 different kinds of edible plants over the summer. Also featured on the fruit and vegetable garden is a working beehive with glass walls, so you can get close to see how the bees make honey. There's also an outdoor commercial-grade kitchen surrounded by an amphitheater, where chefs are invited from great Chicago restaurants to put on cooking demonstrations on Saturdays and Sundays at 1:30 and 2:30 p.m. You're invited to attend. There's no extra charge. You get printed copies of the recipes, and after the cooking is done, you get to taste the food. Over the last year, we've been reconstructing the shoreline around this lake on the right. Before, the shoreline was very steep and waves were eating away at that shore. We've reconfigured the shoreline so it has a very low slope and installing 120,000 perennials along that shoreline. And now, when waves hit the shore, they'll roll up and use it, and by gravity and friction from the plants, those waves will lose their energy and not cause any damage. These trees along the road here have orange-colored bark. Also notice the long needles. These are Scots pines. They're a class of tree called conifers, trees that grow cones. Most conifers are evergreen, that is, they keep their needles all year round. There's a few of them that drop their needles in the wintertime. Those trees include the bald cypress, the larch, and the dawn redwood, all considered deciduous conifers. During the construction, This field on the right was used by the contractor to store his materials and his heavy equipment. And over the last few days, we've resodded this field. Those Scots pines have a very long needle, and another characteristic of pine trees is that the needles are in bunches, anywhere from 2 to 4 needles per bunch. The most common conifer in this area is the spruce. Most of the trees around here are spruce in this area. The spruce needles are evenly spaced along the twigs. They're usually less than an inch long, and if you cut them in half crosswise, you'll see the cross section is square.
Hands are close.
In a few places, the shoreline restoration didn't have enough space to put in a sloping shoreline, so instead we substituted the sheet piling, like you see on the right. They look like steel piling, but they're actually vinyl piling that are 10 feet long. The maroon building on the left is our Center for Teaching and Learning, where we have classrooms and other facilities for educating children. Behind the fence on the right is construction of Discovery Cove, where students will be able to draw lake water and study that water under microscopes to see what's alive in that water. The white building on the left is our Butterflies and Blooms exhibit that closes promptly at 5 p.m. The trees along the road, the very small ones with the fan-shaped leaves, are ginkgo bilobas. Ginkgo bilobas have been living on Earth for over 400 million years. They're the only trees with fan-shaped leaves. Leaves are used to make an extract said to improve your memory. Don't exactly remember much more about it though.
Gotta have a little fun.
Yeah, we're going to stop here for a moment. Anybody on the tram interested in going to the Butterflies and Blooms exhibit or the Grunfield's Children's Learning Garden? They're both on the left here. All right, we will continue. And that island across the water here is called Bird Island. You can see why it's called that. The Canada geese like to congregate there. We're almost done with our tour. I hope you've enjoyed it. You have seen some areas of the garden you may not have known about before. I enjoyed showing you the garden. Have a great day, and I hope to see you all back very soon.